Hey, welcome back to the channel, guys. Okay, today, well, we kind of had a little bit of a near catastrophic failure, like with this truck here, 89 Chev again. I knew I needed U-bolts, so I ordered them a while ago, but you kind of trying to look at the U-bolts, this on the left side, and yeah, they're getting pretty thin. So I kind of knew about this for a while now, and but the problem with these GMs is they got these saddles that the U-bolts go to, collects all the crap in there, and I've cleaned these things out numerous times, but they just fill right back up again going down the gravel roads. And if you don't keep them clean, well, I guess I should have been spraying some oil or something in there. It probably would have slowed it down, but anyways, I got new U-bolts for it, but the thing is, I'm going to show you the other side here, where I'm saying I just got to get this light up a little higher so I can actually see something on the other side. Here, hold on a sec. Okay, I'm kind of set up a light on the other side here. And yeah, you can see they're wore thin. And even on this other side here, it's kind of hard to see, but yeah, you can see she's getting pretty thin. I already started picking some of the dirt out. However, when I was sitting there kind of dealing with stuff, I noticed the top of the U-bolt is kind of poking up a little bit on the back part. And lo and behold, it kind of snapped off. So yes, that could have been quite the catastrophic failure. Yeah, I definitely don't want that, because obviously often I washed it and whatnot, and we have hauled some wood since. But I guess that's what ends up happening, because these cavities, I just set the light up there, but these cavities in here, they fill up with crap, and then it goes right underneath. I don't know how much you guys can actually see there, but on the bottom part where the U-bolts come through, it collects all the crap, and over time it actually rots out your differential housing too. So it's almost like it's kind of designed, engineered to fail, as they call it. But yeah, otherwise the U-bolts, they weren't real pricey. There's a spring shop in the city. They're cost me 20 bucks a piece for them, that's taxes in. So it's $80 and like 40 some cents, whatever, for the whole batch, taxes in. So realistically, and I had an old one off another truck. I just hung it over top, like that I salvaged off another truck that I was changing springs out on. And if I could save them, because it was a little bit of corrosion, but it was quite a bit thicker, because it wasn't basically a whole bunch of gravel road driving. It was more of a city truck when I parted out. But in a case like that, yeah, you got to keep these things clean, and I guess from now on, I'm just gonna, once I clean it all up, put the U-bolts in. But yeah, when they start getting thin like that, you're just better off changing them out. And yeah, you don't even try to save them, just cut them off, and trying to keep it from rattling too much to get around, bugger up my brake line there. But yeah, it's one of those things, like, I guess from now on, I'm going to kind of squirt a little bit of oil down in those cavities, even though there's dirt in there. It'll kind of keep the bolts from rotting out. But yeah, it's the first one I've ever had do that. I had them get pretty thin. I usually have some on hand, because it's just kind of a common thing around here. Because a lot of my driving is muddy and gravel road driving, and it collects all that crap. And then you go to the city, get salt in there, and in the winter, and I guess that's the joys of the Great White North up here. But yeah, you get all that salt slop in there, and then it just sits there and quietly rots away. And if you don't pay attention to it, it will eventually just rot off. And at least it didn't end up breaking right loose. And yeah, because I thought I heard something snap at the last load, but I didn't know what it was. But I thought maybe I broke a spring, and I looked on the one side, and the truck was hitting pretty level. But yeah, it's just sort of still tight on there. But anyways, I'm going to start picking all this stuff out and clean it out so I can actually get this thing apart. So I don't even have to, I already got it on the jack stands here anyway, so that's going to be pretty simple. I just have to lift it up and move it away from the saddles a bit, but yeah, I'm surprised I didn't notice that when I put it on the jack stands. But yeah, when I set the park brakes up, and that's when I noticed it. But that's usually when I'm doing a complete service. I'm looking at other things besides just what I'm doing. Like I'm constantly looking things over as dangling wires. In fact, I found on the back of the frame there, my license plate light wire, it was rotted off, corroded off. So I fixed that. So now that works. But yeah, now I'm going to kind of get at this, and yeah, I'll set you up on a time lapse for a bit now, for a bit there, and I'm gonna start picking away and sucking it out with the shop vac, and see how it turns out to get it out. You get one side done, and then the other side will be the same thing. Alrighty, bring you back here in a bit. I'm gonna try to clean these pockets out a bit. This will be kind of noisy. I'll probably put you guys on time lapse here. Okay, I'll switch you guys over to time lapse. This is too noisy for you guys. Okay guys, hopefully you guys can see something here, but try to position you in a spot where you can kind of see, but and I don't bump you guys. But yeah, I tried even getting this broken part of the U-bolt off, and it's corroded right in there, but kind of came to the conclusion I'm just going to zip it off. And then I'll have to move the guys to the other side to view the other side, which I'll probably put on time lapse. But yeah, I'll zip this here one off here. Woohoo! Well, that one let loose. Yeah, you can see where it broke off on this side here. It was just so thin. Yeah, this side's a little bit thicker, but still. Those things are on there solid. I kind of clamped my springs together because I'm not 100% sure if this center bolt is still intact yet. Has nothing shifted, but yeah, so I'm going to go and set you guys up on the other side here, and we'll see what we can see, and I'll cut the other side off. But yeah, it's definitely a whole lot easier than, because I didn't want to wreck my brake line, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with my brake lines here. They're still intact, so okay, we're going to put you guys on time lapse. I'll set you up on the other side here so you can see what's going from the other side. I got the U-bolts off. I'm just gonna have to clean up that top plate, and otherwise the top bolt's intact. I just gotta wire wheel the top of my spring. I think I'm gonna put some fluid film on there after. Then I gotta get underneath here and clean some of that corrosion buildup underneath the axle, but there is no point in me disturbing any of this stuff right now. It's all sitting intact. I got the weight of the truck sitting on. I just put these clamps on just in case this bolt went sprung, but it didn't, so we'll leave that alone. But I just gotta do some cleaning because apparently I have to put this in the press here or something, because or take a bigger hammer, but I can't get these parts I cut off yet. You can see that one was broke off, and these other ones, yeah, where I cut it off, I hammered on it a bit here trying to pound them out, but that's not working. But yeah, I knew they were getting thin like this here when I didn't realize this one here was that corroded. But yeah, apparently a rough field trip last year, I guess. Well, I guess that's what it broke. But yeah, so I'm gonna get this mess cleaned up here, and I'll bring you guys back when I get this. I don't think you need to be sitting there watching me just beat on this thing. Maybe I'll put it in the vise and take the big impact to it and see if I can't just spin it out of there. I'll save these washers for something else, but yeah, there's no way of getting these here nuts apart. There's no saving these things. As far as the old U-bolts go, I usually hang on to them. I'll cut them off straight or whatever. But I weld them on. I use them for hanging chains and stuff like that on. So they don't go to waste anyway. But yeah, you could definitely... come on, focus. Oh, there we go. But yeah, you can see that one was extreme. That was the worst one out of the whole bunch. Yeah, most of them, they kind of resembled this here. You know, they're corroded pretty thin, but other than that, they probably wouldn't have broke for a while. But yeah, that one, it managed to break. But oh well, for 20 bucks a piece, yeah, just change them. But yeah, there's kind of one of those things, like this is kind of a crappy design, because this fits under your axle, sits on this here lip here, nothing in the middle, sits on this rib in the center here, nothing in this hollow, and then sits up on this outside lip. Because if you actually look at the bottom side, so you got an open cavity in here, which in turn sits there and collects all the crap around the U-bolts. And it gets even underneath the axle here, so it'll actually start rotting out your axle. Because I've actually seen that in the past, where it basically corroded a hole in the bottom of the axle on the housing there. But yeah, this was not that far gone, but it is a little bit of pitting, but that's not going to hurt it. I know my 3/4 ton, I put new U-bolts in there, and yeah, it was a little pitted, but no big deal, because I put some new heavier springs in there. But yeah, this here, it's kind of a poor design. Like, you would have thought they would have had a plate like this welded right onto the diff housing, and just have flat tabs, or else have these flat tabs to the top and then the hollows to the bottom. I don't know. But yeah, it just, any trucks or whatever to have the U-bolts going around the axle and facing up, and you just got your flat plate on the top, they don't have this issue. But these here ones, and that's just a GM trait. Like, I don't know what the new GMs are like, but all these older ones, this is 89, but basically, I don't know, 88 to 98, they're all like this anyway. Even some of the square bodies, I think they're kind of the same way, as long as the axle's underneath. But yeah, like, why couldn't they just put a U-bolt going right underneath there and just have the flat plate like this, but have your holes, because that's how most trucks are sitting there. And there's lots of room in here to have the bolts facing up, but I don't know, maybe it would have hit the frame. I don't know what their mentality was on it, but it's, as far as I'm concerned, piss poor design. But yeah, for anybody watching this, yeah, word of advice, get in there and blast all that stuff and keep checking them. Because sooner or later, I don't care how well you look after your vehicle, they're going to rot out because you don't think about this here spot underneath the axle because you got a kind of a cavity underneath there. Because if you rest this across, there, that'll kind of give you an idea how much of a cavity you got when your axle's sitting on top of that, those where it rides on. Look at that gap you got underneath there between the U-bolts. Well, that's just a big cavity to collect all the crap, and it's got nowhere to go. There should be a drain hole in the bottom. That should have been the case, but there isn't any, and none of them have it. So yeah, I'm just going to clean up this mess here for time being for tonight, and call it quits for tonight, and be back tomorrow. Alright, I'll catch you guys in a bit. Well guys, it's been a couple days since I worked on this thing. I got other things to do besides this, but yeah, cleaning up these saddles and whatnot. I'll have to use my bigger needle scaler. Got a little bit more oomph behind this one. Yeah, definitely. I cleaned up half of it here, and you guys can see it or not. But yeah, cleaned up half of it. So yeah, we'll start cleaning the other part. Then I'll get them painted, and they'll have to go clean the axle up a little bit, and we'll get the one set of U-bolts on anyway. Can't tell if this thing's actually recording here. Oh yeah, okay. Just the screen's not very bright in the sunlight here, but anyways, yeah, I'm just gonna use a little bit more of the beans here. it in tighter spots here. Definitely a whole lot better. Yeah, there's no way of really breaking up these, cause you get that black scale on there, and yeah, the only way to get it off is chip it off with a needle scaler. I don't see any other way of dealing with it. Otherwise you're sitting with an old punch and hammer, and yeah, you can break it off that way, but that'll take a while. I got a little bit more to do on here, and there we go. I guess I'll go and I'll be back in a bit. I'll go to wire wheel this thing a little bit, and just so you can't get a wire wheel down inside here anywhere, so this is the only option. And I'm going to hit it with a little bit of rust converter and give it a coat of paint before, and then I'll go and clean up the axle and the top of the springs there and get the first set of U-bolts in. I'll bring you back in a bit. Okay, I'm going to just give it a little blast with some this rust converter. I figure it's kind of a probe. It doesn't work that great for body work, but it works okay for just heavier metal. But yeah, just give it a little bit of a protective film on here before I paint it, and maybe it'll slow things down a little bit. We'll see how well that works. Yeah, it's already starting to turn black, so apparently it's working better on this here. Let this dry for a little bit, and then I'll come back and hit it with a little bit of black trim clad rust paint. Gotta make everything last a little bit longer. Okay, so yeah, let that sit there. I'll come back in a bit and give it a coat of black paint, and then after, then I'll touch it all up, and yeah, at least parts that make contact and get the most corrosion, well, might as well have it all treated. It'll extend the life of the truck a whole lot longer. Okay, so I'm going to put you guys on time lapse when I drag you back into the shop there, and I'll go clean up that top of that spring, the leaf spring there, where that saddle sits, and the bottom of the axle, and get a wire wheel down a little bit, and then give that a little light coat of that rust converter, and touch of paint, and start putting the one side together. Okay, before I carry on here, I'm going to show you something. This is what I just kind of figured out here a little while ago. But this is the add-on needle scaler for the ones you get for the typical air hammers. You just thread these on and set it so that you get it the right tension. But see, there's no travel on these things. They're kind of spring loaded. And this here collar in behind, it's spring loaded, right? But when you get the thing going, it works really good, right? Like it's really aggressive. This one, on the other hand, the inline one, see how there's no spring in there? But watch what happens when you turn it on. Nothing until you get some tension against it all the time, right? So you're always got to be pushing against the part, and it doesn't want to work. But here, I'm thinking right from the factory, they forgot to put a part in here, which I'm thinking was kind of a spring. But I'm going to show you something here. This here spring, that just happened to be an appropriate size, fits around there, and it should fit inside this collar. But that's off an old washing machine I stripped down for sheet metal and stuff like that. But little parts like that I like to hang on to for this, like springs and stuff like that. So there, I'm just going to take this thing apart. Yeah, this is really interesting. So if anybody's got one of these things, if you can find a spring, see, all it's got is just a little hammer thing, and if I hit the air, this thing's going to go flying out, obviously. But that sits inside there like that, the little hammer part. Let's set this here for a second. But, so now you got this part here, but I don't know, personally I think it should have, let's see which is the best part of this, the flattest part of the spring. I guess they're kind of about equal, I guess. But anyways, I'm going to shove that in the hole because it happens to fit. And drop that down in there, but now it holds this thing back. And thread this thing back together, so now it's got some spring tension on it, right? But see, now they're not bouncing around. But watch what happens when I put the air to it now. So now you don't have to put a whole bunch of pressure, and it'll just sit there and do its thing like the other one. So, anybody else has one of these? Leave in the comments, like, take it apart. Is yours have a spring in it, or did they just forget to put a part in from the factory? Like, it was in a sealed box when I bought it. But yeah, I never thought it ever worked that great. That's why I bought that add-on piece for my other air hammer, because my son had one. He got as a kit with a little air hammer like this. It's not a heavy duty one. I can also put it on my heavy duty air hammer, but there's no point. It does what it needs to do with my cheapy one. But anyways, yeah, what do you guys think? Did they forget a part? And that's where I kind of started looking at it. I just kind of figured that out here just a few minutes ago. Like, why the heck? When I just went looking through my bucket of, parts and stuff like that from the old washing machine, and I found that spring. Figured out it fits. But yeah, definitely make a huge difference. Alright, okay, I guess we'll get back into the video there. Put you guys on time lapse, but even I'll probably play a couple seconds of how well it works. Well, I can even just show you on here on my vise. But yeah. A whole lot better and a lot more aggressive too. You're not fighting it. Because that was the biggest issue. You get down in the hole, now these rods are sticking way out and the other ones are pushed way back. But you always have to be up against that plunger, keep pressure on it. But yeah, I'm thinking it was missing a spring from the factory. Alrighty, we'll get back into it, put you guys on time lapse. Hey guys, I kind of sat around and waited for the paint to dry, but yeah, I'm gonna start putting this thing together here, putting my top plate on top of the springs itself, and we'll drop on one of the U-bolts on here and one on the front side here. Okay. Let's see if I can get this here in place. Okay. I'll just thread these nuts on here, just finger tight for now, just to kind of hold things together here. I just want to make sure everything is centered up properly before I start torquing on these bolts. According to the manual I got, it's showing 81 foot-pounds a torque for these U-bolts, but basically, spring shops are basically 80 to 90 foot-pounds for this size of U-bolt. And yes, once I start driving it, after about 50 miles, I'll have to re-torque it all. Well, come on. Yeah, I just kind of want these things somewhat centered on the spring hangers here. Okay, that there one just seems to be a little crooked. I'm just gonna see what's going on with that. I'll just spin it around and see if it makes a difference. Yeah, it seems to be a little bit straighter. Okay, well, not much you can do about it. It's not like you can actually... Like I have to stick these U-bolts in the vise because when they're formed on their press, they end up being a little bit stretched out. They're close, and all I end up doing is just basically stick them in the vise, squeeze them in a little bit just to get them to the right size to fit these holes. Okay, now let's see what we can get going on here. Okay, now we'll try this again. Just try to center this plate on there so it's got even pressure on both sides of the spring. It's got about an even gap. Got about an 1/8 inch on each side here, so I'll get my fat head in here for a second. But yeah, otherwise, I guess I'll just start snugging them up. I was thinking just hitting them with the impact a little bit. Put it on the low setting here. kind of see how straight this thing is sitting on there. It's not a, you really can't do a whole bunch with it. I'm gonna grab a hammer here, just sort of tap it around a little bit. Yeah, it just sort of seems yeah, that's about as straight as a person's gonna get it, I guess. I don't see no issue with that, so yep, I guess we're just gonna crank the torque up here. I'll just take it up in a few stages, I guess. Let's see. We'll start off at 50 to start with, and that should be close enough. Let's give it a little bit of room to swing on here. Now it's tightening up a little, and the U-bolts are starting to settle into place better. Kind of looking at my saddles, it seems like the front is sucked in a little bit higher, so I'm going to loosen it back off and try this again. Here, I'm not going to take them right off. I'm just going to tap the saddle down a little bit here. Easier said than done. There we go. Okay. Gotta get more on the back end here. There we go. Now we're a bit more even. There. Okay, now I can get them torqued up here. Okay, that was 50. Let's see. 60. Well, we'll go to 70 next. Okay, we'll just we'll split the difference on what my Hayes manual says and what the spring manufacturer says. So we'll put it probably about 85 because it's 70 or 80 to 90. I'll put about 85. There, kind of. Tap those a little bit just to make sure they're seated. Start getting a workout on this, torquing these things up to spec. going to back it up to about 80. Start off with 80 foot-pounds. Okay, so we were close. Oh, there we go. Now I can take my clamps off. No fear of that thing coming apart now. Alrighty, I'll dig you guys out from underneath here. Okay, let's see. You're stuck. Let go. Somebody's hanging on in there. Okay, there we go. So it's all back in place and all torqued up. So that's it for this side. The other side I'm going to do off camera, but it'll be the exact same thing. But I don't know if you can actually see in there. But underneath, you can see the reflection. You can see that cavity in behind there. That's what I was saying. That I'll spray it all down with fluid film or rust check or something like that. But anyways, so thanks for watching, guys. If you guys like what you see, please hit that subscribe button and we'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.